weird that they allowed like this guy to be able to play in this game, even though they have a night game. Let him be on that roster.
It's a very weird situation what goes on with this.
Now, technically, he hit a home run today. He hit a home run in his first game. Does that mean that he was still the youngest player to hit it in Nationals history, I believe, in Major League history at like 19 in a couple of days? Would that new date become that one? Like, would it now be like May 20th?
I asked the question
like
on Twitter to the Michael K. Show. Let's say he was called up the day after the cutoff to add another year of service to your towards you, which happens all the time. We saw Chris Bryant a couple years, like 4 years ago. As soon as he was eligible, he came up the next day. What happens if the suspended game was before that date and the player comes up the day after and ends up playing in the continuation of the suspended game, which is before the deadline? What happens?
Clock earlier, technically.
I never got a response. They actually brought it up when they came back from break on the show. Michael K said, a fan on Twitter said this, and they tried to talk about it. They didn't have an official. They had no answer.
No, I've heard him on the Michael K show.
You got to go to league office.
Yeah, and he's actually said it even on Yankees telecast and a bunch of things on the Michael K show. He's tried to give you as much information as he has, but it's still in that gray area.
And no one even thought of that question. And I brought it up on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
He did say that if you had a hit streak up till that point, then the game was suspended.
Yes.
And then if you had a hit streak continuing after that, you would actually lose it if you did not get a hit in that game.
There are so many questions that we just don't have answers to.
Like if you were 0 for 3 and then today you didn't get a hit again, so you were 0 for 4 in that game, you would have lost your hit streak.
They're saying, imagine if you're going after Joe DiMaggio's record.
Yeah, that was the big thing that they brought up because.
And then all of a sudden, you have the streak, you have a streak, you have the streak. The suspended game, you don't get a hit. And then you continue afterward. You might actually get to essentially 57 games or 56 games, and then they put the suspended game back in. You go hitless, and all of a sudden you're like, I have a 56.
You have 2 25-game hit streaks.
Right.
Congrats.
You have nothing.
Yeah. I remember when Chase Utley years ago had a 33-game hit streak, and everyone was like, oh my God, he can do it.
No, it was Jimmy Rollins at 35.
And Chase Utley had 33.
Did he really?
Years
With
ago.
the Phillies?
2008 Chase Utley. And he actually lost it against
Rollins
the Mets.
Was the latest one. I was 11, I believe.
In other baseball news, the San Francisco Giants signed number 2 overall draft pick catcher Joey Bart to the largest signing bonus for a position player, $7 million, which is actually lower than the $7.49 million slot. The last time the Giants drafted a catcher that high, some really good things came out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Can anyone pick up
Buster Posey?
Buster Posey, the number 5 selection.
Drafted his successor.
Yeah, he's only 3-time, World Series champion.
Yeah.
MVP.
Nothing special.
Rookie of the year.
I hated when they tried to make him play
Comeback player of
first.
the year.
Just on a Buster Posey note, when they tried to make him play first, you notice that it affected his bat. Every time he's behind the plate, he's a much better player. He just needs to be involved in the game.
Another team inside the division, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were last year's NL champions and this year's worst team of April and May, are now suddenly only 1.5 games back behind the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, like we just said, lost 2 straight to
the Mets.
Now, by the way, I want to make a point. The Baltimore Orioles coming into today were 2-16 their last 18 games. 2-16.
Yeah, I was going to say the new worst team in baseball.
They were 0-16 against everyone else.
And then they went 2 against the Mets.
And then they went 2 against the Mets. So that just shows what's going on here, right?
And weren't those scores 1-0 and 2-1?
Yeah.
And then the Mets go and beat Arizona, who Arizona's at the beginning of their division, and you look at this chain
Arizona
effect.
Has not been great the last
But
month.
you look at this chain effect, and it goes Baltimore beats the Mets beat Diamondbacks beat Dodgers, but Baltimore can't beat the Dodgers. What is going on here?
That's baseball, and that's why we play 162.
It's crazy.
That's why the season's the way it is.
Crazy stuff.
But the Dodgers, though, if they get everybody healthy, I think Kenta Maeda's coming back tonight. Rich Hill's coming back tomorrow.
Scott Kazmir might eventually come.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw's coming back.
They traded away
Scott
Scott Kazmir in the offseason, but it would be really cool if he finally got healthy again.
Yeah,
and Julio Arias is going to be back. They're saying in late July.
Yeah,
he's very fun.
They gave him a lot of time though because they knew he was young. He was 18, 19,
he's
going
19.
back and forth.
It's really fun to watch.
But he had shoulder surgery, so that's who knows what he's going to be. But the reports that I've seen on him are that late July he should be ready.
So it's funny though too. I remember in May you would, or right after April, May 1st or something. we had a show, and you pretty much said there was like 4 teams below 500, all that were supposed to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And
Nationals and Dodgers.
Point, yeah,
we're on that team.
Yep. We're never. No team after April that was ever 500 made the playoffs.
No, I don't know if it was. I think they may have made the playoffs.
Or did make the World Series or something.
They didn't make it to the World Series.
But they were both World Series favorites, and honestly, the way that they're
meanwhile,
playing now,
Nationals and Dodgers look like they're going to be competing for the in the NLCS.
Yeah,
but that would just require the Nationals to actually win a series.
Yeah.
Which
I think the Cubs and the Dodgers, have a rematch, though. That's just my pick.
I don't
the Cubs
know.
look good.
I have no idea.
They're
but
playing tonight, by the way.
That's something for a little later on down the road.
Yeah, the Cubs and Dodgers actually playing tonight.
It's always interesting to see how that goes on.
And the other interesting thing that I think you need to remember and look at is what are the Braves going to do? Because
they're so ahead of schedule.
Their GM said that the players are going to dictate what he does
last year's
at the trade deadline.
They're way ahead of schedule, and you talk about a system where if this is the other thing. In fact, we mentioned it on the show earlier today. If the Mets are serious about trading Jacob deGrom, the 2 best fits for a deal are the Yankees and the Braves,
and neither team is going to give up what it needs.
But I think both teams would give up.
They would give up a lot, but would the Mets say yes because one's in your division and one's across the rival?
That was the argument.
Them either way.
They won't.
My case was
but
this.
they should.
They should. Yeah,
if you're the Mets, those are your choices because both of those teams are top 3 in farm systems in the game.
Yeah.
So, do you want to trade deGrom to the team
I'd rather
that
go
really
to the Yankees,
doesn't
they really don't help your division?
Which doesn't mean anything to you except that you share the same
it's just
market,
pride.
and you have to you'll see it in a paper.
But between the two, I would say the Yankees
or
are the way
do you
to go.
give Jacob deGrom to the team that you have to face 19 times a year?
Yeah, and you may have to face him personally 5 times a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he knows your team, and you have bad hitters. And if a great pitcher who knows your players that well, that really would not.
But if it could bring
the Braves system, they have more than a rotation.
Oh, by the way,
top-notch arms.
Don't forget about this Braves organization that in September, don't forget their GM was banned from baseball for life. For what he did, with the international signing bonus and everything. Mm-hmm. This is an organization that was literally left in shambles, and all of a sudden, they go,
Well, no, the players played.
They're like the Yankees from last year. All of a sudden, they're young guys mixed with some old guys, and said, "Why are we taking this? We're gonna suck. We're good. Let's just go play well." And here we are.
They just need a couple of bullpen pieces to get the Vizcaíno, their closer, and then they'll be fine.
Yeah.
After that, they'll be
exactly.
they'll be on
that's
point.
their only weakness right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of bullpen.
I hope they get Zach Britton from Baltimore at the deadline. It would be very fun to watch.
I would like that too, because then he won't be pitching against the Yankees.
That also gets Zach Britton. That gets the only competent piece from the Baltimore out of the division.
Yeah.
Right before we switch over to a different sport, there's a bar in Baltimore which is offering free shots every single time Chris Davis gets a hit.
Is it called
worst deal in Major League Baseball.
Nobody's going to ever get drunk.
37 hits in 59 games.
Worst.
And how many of those are home runs? He's
got like
4.
He's all or nothing.
It's so bad right now. Now, if you're just tuning into the home stretch here on 90.3 WHPC, and yes, this is the second hour of the home stretch. We're 38 minutes into hour number 2 of the home stretch here on 90.3 WHPC. My name is Andrew Zucker, and alongside me, Karen Bonagura, Kyle McKay, and my brother, and Kawhi Leonard's half-brother, Tim Leonard.
Do you have my name written on the inside of your shirt or something?
I believe I wrote something on pen on my chest. I was like, I looked down for a second.
What's he doing?
Oh, don't worry about it. Now, we love to say this on the show, and it happens all the time. Breaking news never happens right before our show or on the day of our show. It always
happens right after my show.
Right after. Which, by the way, is good for me when it happens right after your show, because that means it's right in time for my show.
Right. It always happens after our show. Always.
But,
I'm convinced that John Tavares is going to sign on a Monday at 10:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
Whenever that comes, whenever Tavares finally, hopefully it's with the Islanders, but whenever that is going to be announced at 10:15 on a Monday morning.
You know what else might? You know what else?
Have a great day. You don't even leave the parking lot, and then you'll see the news. And you're like,
right.
What?
You know what else might happen at 10:15 on a Monday morning, right after your show? Barry Trotz, who resigned right before our show, might be announced by Lou Lamoriello as the new head coach of the Islanders at the exact same time that John Tavares resigns with the Islanders.
I'm fairly convinced that's going to happen.
And I would not be surprised if in my house in Woodmere, all of a sudden, I can hear Tim Leonard screaming from wherever, the loudest, longest expletive ever. He's just going to be like, Like, how did
it happens? If it happens, I'd be happy. I wouldn't be happy that it happened right after our show, but
Stanley Cup coach champion Barry Trotz, who had a special clause in his contract that if he won a Stanley Cup while in Washington, he'd receive a 2-year, $1.85 million extension, decided to resign. Now,
tells you how bad it was.
Can he resign? Yes, but there's only one opening left.
So
and it's the Islanders.
He already knows
New York
he's going
Islanders.
there. It's like
it's the Islanders. It's either he goes back to Washington and says, "Look, only reason I resigned is because I wanted more money," but they can just say, "Why don't you just restructure?" Or he goes to the mad evil genius himself, Lou Lamoriello, who can, unfortunately, to say this as a Ranger fan, can potentially turn around these Islanders very quickly. And Lou Lamoriello, look, he means business. He successfully turned around Toronto Maple Leafs in a short period of time.
Yep.
And the Islanders already actually have a great player. Lamoriello, they didn't have anything when he first came in.
Well, they kind of have a great player.
No.
They have a great player whose contract expired.
Yes, but they brought in Lamoriello, and he himself can convince Tavares to come back. Plus, they have the brand new stadium that will be open in 2044, and they can bring in
or 2021. But
have they broken ground yet?
I don't know. I don't drive over there.
Yeah, and they could bring in Barry Trotz, a better coach than Doug Weight would ever be. So they can bring in some competent people. They can shed some of their horrible, horrible contracts. It's a very interesting situation to see what happens. But even if they do bring in Barry Trotz, they might not re-sign Tavares. Where, if Tavares does not go back to the Islanders, Cameron, where is Tavares going? And how much is he getting?
a lot.
I'll say I think he'll make $11 million. I think he'll go up to $11 million, at least close to it. But where he will go, I am not sure.
Is it possible? And I know this is crazy. Is it possible John Tavares goes to the New York Rangers?
No. I want to. I do, but it's not happening. It's not happening. He might go to New Jersey, honestly.
Why would he not go to the Rangers?
Kind of, I don't know.
I think John Tavares, it's rare for a professional athlete, but I think he has a sense of right and wrong. And I don't think he would do that to Islanders fans.
Yeah.
I would love to see him
for the people who supported him his entire career. I don't think he would do that. And I've also said this on my show more than a couple of times. Lou Lamoriello did not come to the Islanders to become known as the general manager who let John Tavares leave. I don't see it happening. I see John Tavares getting a contract that is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years on $100 million. It's going to be in that range. And I can't see, and especially when you look at what the ownership has done in the last month or two, just to try to get things sorted with this organization and turn it into a place where accountability matters. Now I think from everything John Tavares has said over the last 12 months, that's what he wanted. He wants to be part of an organization where winning actually matters. And with Garth Snow, it didn't. But now they're in a situation where I still think Lamoriello, in some ways, is kind of like Sean Marks. He likes to make things happen. I think that at least one of those draft picks is being traded.
Look, let's do this. Let's change the comparison a little bit. Lamoriello is how old?
I'm not talking about age.
Age does play into it. Lamoriello actually has a lot more knowledge. He was with the Devils alone for 29 years.
Right.
So Lamoriello actually has way more knowledge.
But he's not going to sit back and just say, all right, we have 2 draft picks. I'm convinced that at least one of those picks is going to be traded.
It's going to be the Calgary pick.
He
12.
needs first of all, the Islanders need a goalie desperately.
Yes.
Desperately need a real number one.
Who really he's back in playing shape.
Who's that? Billy Smith?
No, Rick DiPietro. He's back in playing shape.
Oh my goodness!
He says on the Humpty Candy show that he could give one good period, and then his knee's going to give out.
Which is more than he did during his playing days. But
by the way, he lives about 5 minutes away from me, right?
Good, maybe.
Okay.
And he's never stopped.
Ricky
by.
Pietro?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well.
if they really need him, they could pull a Mets who called up Jose Bautista. Hey, you doing anything tonight? I'm just gonna say, hey.
And he said, no, Atlanta just released me.